All right, everyone, you've heard about basket of deplorables and things like that. And if, basically MAGA are deplorable, garbage humans, trash people, etc. Now, MSNBC has gone full TDS mode. They've decided to take it a step further. You're no longer adjacent to Nazis or something. Now you're the literal Confederates. So if you don't support the Colorado, this is in the context, link in the description, not archived, it's a tweet. In the context of the Colorado State Supreme Court decision with regards to keeping Trump illegally off the primary ballot, again, predicated on him being an insurrectionist while never having been charged with anything remotely similar to insurrection, with a case as far as the second impeachment that fell through. He was not convicted of anything related to J6 by the Senate. That arguably would rise to the level potentially of a disqualification, but it never happened. In that context, MSNBC goes full red-faced mode with, their various talking heads, their wonks there. How can you possibly oppose this decision? Basically, if you do, you're joining the modern-day Confederacy. So, I get the Confederacy has a lot more members this time, and it's not limited mainly to the South. It's, a broad section of society, apparently almost half the population across the United States of voting age. Guess the Confederacy won in the end. What's this about dead enders? In real talk, there's no similarity, though. This is a populist movement. MAGA is mild reform. When I see articles saying Trump's extreme rhetoric, the extremism of MAGA, oh my God, extreme. So wanting to guard the border, which is something that Obama pledged to do. It's something that Bush pledged to do. It's something that Clinton pledged to do. It's you get the understanding. They've been talking about it since the goddamn 60s as an issue. The only one who hasn't really talked about it is Biden, and we see the result of that. And I think that's why these people are nervous. That's not extreme. That's been echoed by pretty much every modern president other than Joe Biden, who has lifted not one goddamn finger to do anything about it. Tax reform, like a broad middle-class tax cut, which we at the moment desperately need, I don't see how that has something in common with Confederate policies. I haven't seen Trump or anyone else talking about bringing slavery back either, or putting women back in the kitchen, but it constantly gets insinuated as though MAGA's a bunch of old-school moralists and stuff like that. So a broad section of trailer park skinheads, and some of which are actually left-wing punks, by the way, trailer park skinheads and confused minorities that wandered off the plantation and now get called, Uncle Remus or something like that by the Democrats when they're at one of their private champagne meetings where the only person of color there is the person serving the champagne, by the way. Maybe they give them a little tipple afterwards as a tip. When it's $100 a bottle, it's a good tipple. Where's the extremism? It's a populist movement. By the way, Elon Musk weighing in on the actual tweet and calling it babbling nonsense, which it is. You're labeling a significant proportion of the U.S. population as being Confederates for understanding constitutional law. And that is the truth. Trump has not been found guilty of anything that would fall broadly under the header of insurrection. The Colorado State Supreme Court is overstepping its authority on 5 or 6 different levels and likely to get shot down by SCOTUS. And by the way, the rest writes itself. When SCOTUS probably has to weigh in on this and probably shoots it down, what's MSNBC going to say? Activist Supreme Court, Trump stacked the Supreme Court. See, this is why we must defend democracy by undoing the very foundation of our democratic republic. We can't let people vote for this particular individual because he's too scary for us. Well, that's the thing. He already governed once. There's a test was already instituted on Trump during his first presidential season. We know how he'll govern. There was no bringing back of slavery. There was no civil war. If anything, the closest we came to that was like the summer of hate protests with George Floyd and all that other stuff, where a bunch of rancid leftoids forced the White House into lockdown, burned down thousands of businesses, causing literally billions of dollars in damage, and killed a dozen people. I would say that rose more to the level of the kind of violence that would predicate, if not a civil war, at least, street-to-street shooting and anarchy. Like an LA riot situation is kind of similar at times in some places. Certainly several of the U.S. major cities resembled the LA riots at that time. Those were leftists doing that. It was way bigger than J6, way more prolonged, and way more politically pointed, by the way. And the J6ers did injure some cops. How many Secret Service agents were injured in the course of a few hours during the attempted White House invasion? It was a lot of them. It was a lot more. Capitol cops were injured too, but nobody talks about it. And if you do talk about it, I guess you're just a hate-filled Confederate. For wanting a sane border policy, not starting new wars, for wanting the United States to be at least in relative comfort and peace, and restore some semblance of dignity, decorum, and order to the halls of Congress, that's not really the Confederate sort of thing. I'm not seeing the comparison. Also, it seems there are an awful lot of Hispanic Confederates now. Arguably about 40% of the Hispanic population. So this time around, the Confederates, they got an alliance with Mexico, I guess. The Central American states decided to intervene in the war with their foreign naval assets. This is screwy. It makes absolutely no sense. The fact is that Biden is destroying and undermining the very concept of the Constitution on a daily basis. Attacks on free expression, we've seen that. Certainly privacy. Congress wasn't being very helpful. They extended the FISA bullshit and the NSA bullshit at the same time. Certainly the Second Amendment is not near and dear to the Biden administration. There's a reason that they want to disarm you, by the way. The 10th Amendment, they won't even let the states compensate for the lax border policy. They sued Texas, they sued Arizona successfully. Apparently the oath of office that Biden swore to no longer is meaningful. You're supposed to explicitly, you're swearing to defend the United States and its states as well in that capacity, and it's not really being done. We've got soaring crime. We've got all sorts of problems. One man actually did a decent job fixing them to some degree, although he was held back by an unwilling House Republican majority for a couple of years, and then by the Democrats thereafter. By the way, something he'll have to grapple with if he's reelected. The Democrats will almost certainly take the House. They'll probably lose the Senate at the same time, so there's definitely a silver lining there, because Trump will easily get through his judicial appointees, which will be interesting. I hope he does stack the courts just as a form of retribution to show them who's boss, because apparently they think it'll perpetually be the uniparty. I'm not so sure. But to call a significant proportion of the U.S. population Confederates for understanding that the Colorado State Supreme Court overstepped its authority, dude, there are liberals that are calling out the decision. And many of them that expect it to be shot down. Are they Confederates too? Some of these people are card-carrying, lifelong partisan Democrats. Are they part of the the Confederacy was, the Southern Democrats mainly anyway, but, the historical context is apparently lost on this MSNBC panel. Not that that's necessarily the greatest of surprises. I mean, if you look at the front page of MSNBC.com, inevitably every single day there will be a TDS article. Usually more than one. It is an obsession. This has been going on for years, and by the way, the White House coordinates part of this propaganda personally. That's about all. Peace out.